Sugar Coated. I'm your host, Adrienne Garland, the CEO and founder of She Leads Media. For far too long, women have been conditioned to sugarcoat their words, their actions, and the way they show up in the world, and to conform to certain cultural norms and ideals. This is inherently designed to keep those who are outside of the norm from gaining power, prestige, wealth, and influence, preventing more women from being recognized and respected as the powerful leaders that we truly are. Join me each week as we dive into raw conversations with remarkable, uncompromising, and inspirational women that will encourage you to strip away your sugarcoating and move boldly in the direction of your magnificent dreams. Today's podcast is brought to you by She Leads Live 2023. It's the conference for women entrepreneurs. Join us on December 1st in New York City. Get your tickets today at sheleadsmedia.com. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Sugar Coated. I am so excited. I'm always excited for all of my guests because they're all so amazing. It's like one is more amazing than the next. But I am, again, super excited to introduce my next guest to you. Her name is Dr. Gurpreet Kaur, and she is a licensed professional counselor, executive coach, and speaker. And she's so much more than that. She's also a speaker at the She Leads Live conference, and we cannot wait to hear from her. Gurpreet works with high-powered, successful individuals and all of us who are looking to get to that place as well. So welcome to Sugar Coated, Gurpreet.
Thank you so much, Adrienne, for having me here. I am very excited to share my experience and my insights and my journey. So let's get to it.
All right. So you work with a lot of people who are looking to, I think, explore a little bit more of themselves because they might be doing things that are getting in the way of what they really want in life. How are you helping, women entrepreneurs, people that are, wanting to move into a leadership role? How are you helping them with some of the incredible things that you do? And I'd love for you to talk about some of the things that we've spoken about in the past. But, how are you helping people to really be their very best?
Okay. That's a loaded question. I'll see if I can do it justice to that. But what I do, Adrienne, I help individuals to connect with themselves. As you know, my background is in psychology, so I am a licensed professional counselor. I started out with this industry in psychology and counseling therapy. I have been doing that in my private practice for 17 years. And I like to just share beginning of my journey. When I was doing my doctorate, I had to do dissertation and my own research. And I had been in private practice and practicing psychology, counseling, therapy. All of those are interchangeable terms. And what I found at the time, I was in DC and my practice was in DC. So I was working with highly intelligent, if I want to say, but very successful young professionals who are working on capital, and they have done all the right things, right? They went to Ivy League schools, they got those internships, and now they are at the capital and making bigger impact. But what they were seeking was that they felt sort of empty inside. And now they have six-figure incomes as 23, 24 years old. And religion or as they would call spirituality, was not for them. And my journey has been, during my undergrad, I have gone through or experienced depression myself, and which was actually what changed my pre-med into my psychology focus and studies. And I was discovering of my own that reading about new age and quantum mechanics stuff was helping me a lot. And I have been a deeper thinker to begin with, that I wanna kind of get to know myself and what all this is about. But learning that about myself, and I was sharing that with my young clients, and it really resonated with them. And the whole approach of like the energy and just the vibration and connectedness and oneness, all that were kind of speaking to them. And I saw for myself that quantum mechanics was more of like a bridge between spirituality and science. That it wasn't that like God this or God that, but it was, we know from like double slit experiments that we have energy that has the potential on its own. It's an intelligence that it can turn into particles and waves based on the information that's available to it. If there is only one hole that the energy has to travel through, it shows up on the other end as a particle. And if there are two slits, it shows up as a wave. So that whole, it just resonated with me personally. And when I was sharing that we are a source of energy, all this is information. And they kind of took that as to a next level of exploring within themselves and their self-worth, that I don't have to look for that meaning or purpose for externally, but kind of bring it here internally. And that source, that inner strength and understanding has been my go-to as an individual, as an entrepreneur, and as a counselor and coach for others. And after that was also as a wife, and now I am a parent. So it has kind of been the thread that knowing me and myself and who I am at a much deeper level that connected me to the source or the energy. It has been that source of inspiration and motivation. And that's what I help my clients to do as well. I help them realize that, because I believe at the core that we already are that. And even from a counseling or psychology theoretical framework for work, the orientations or frameworks that really resonated with me were the humanistic psychology or existential psychology frameworks. And from the humanistic psychology framework, the core belief, what we call as a Rogerian or person-centered framework, that the person is at the center of it and the person is good. That's the core belief of that the person is good. So anything around it, it's just like, that's the core you have to find, right? To find that ever-flowing confidence and self-worth, because everything around it, it's just your edges that you have to polish. And that's how I see it. And that's what I help my clients to get to that core and get to know that what's at the center of it all. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I love this so much for a multitude of reasons. Plus, I have some questions. So
Absolutely.
I guess I'll start with what I love and why. I love this so much because I agree that we all have this something inside us that is, you're saying it's good. I a lot of times say it's beautiful or it's our gift, right? And as we move through this world, sometimes we have to protect the gift because sometimes we've shared the gift and we haven't gotten the best feedback about it because maybe it looked weird, right? And so we've done a lot of things to obscure our goodness, our gift. And it's like when you were talking, I was thinking about like the mud and the sludge that's around that we have to like clear away so that we can see it.
Or that kind of comes around when we just go through life and it's the conditioning. It's the
Yes.
conditioning, that's the muddiness, that we go through the life experiences and we collect that conditioning from other people, other sources,
And
and
ourselves. We
ourselves.
do it to ourselves too. We 100% do it to ourselves, right? Because we're also trying to protect ourselves because we're not always safe. And I think that is especially true for women, right? Like, I don't know if I was talking about it here on this podcast or to somebody, but like even as little girls, we are constantly being given the message that like, we're going to get taken away by the man in the white van, right? Like, don't go past the front yard, don't go past the gate because someone's going to come along and steal you. So it's like girls are on high alert from when they're 2, you know?
Yes,
Ugh.
absolutely.
And so it's like you want to sort of protect it because you also don't want that beauty from within to be shining because it might be attracting people that you don't want near you.
hmm And then that threat, right? That high alert activates our reptile brain that hinders our creativity and
Ugh.
our connection to our core and a sense. So
Ugh.
yeah, absolutely.
This is so fascinating. And one of the things that I don't know that I fully understand, and you explained it a little bit, and I was hoping that maybe you could give us a tiny little quick lesson in what is quantum mechanics, because it doesn't, that concept doesn't often come up in discussions of entrepreneurship or psychology.
Yes. So that's why I use the phrase of new age as well, because a lot of that is incorporated in. So at the core of it, what quantum mechanics or quantum physics principles, theories, what do we know? All those interchangeable terms mean. So we know that we have our building blocks for our reality, right? And then we had stopped at the particle level. But when we go deeper than that at the subparticle and subparticle, what we find through our search or research, even as solid as pen is, and when we're going to go at a subparticle and we grind it up and we go like, okay, looking for what is the essence or the center of reality, we find that it's empty energy. At a subparticle level, it's all like the nucleus of that subparticle. It's again, I am not a scientist and I did not study this, so it's just kind of my comprehension of it is that it's all energy, and it's not solid at all. The further we go, and more we find that there's no solidity. It's just energy. And when we play with this energy, we found some laws, what they call quantum mechanics laws, right? That are very different than our physics laws. And there is a connectivity, there's oneness. When you play with these subparticles at that level, and the connectivity we are talking about, that if you intertwine two particles and then you apart them and you take them to two different distances, worlds, two different locations, and when you penetrate one, the other is instantly penetrated because they're still connected through that energy.
Okay.
So and this has been, and I kind of talked about it in my dissertation. And I don't know how many of us who are not in psychology would know that Carl Jung was a psychologist, and his depth psychology also speaks a lot to me, and his interest in Eastern philosophy. And at that time, he was talking about the concepts of this, of connectivity. And he had the term collective consciousness. So we have our own consciousness, right? He talked about then as a collective consciousness, where he derived those archetypes from, that those heroes, right? That we try to go towards or try to adapt onto those personas. And what collective consciousness is, that we are individuals at this level. And the way he explained it, like if you look at it like a suburb development, right? Our housing development, and there are single family houses, right? And they could be like 300 yards apart, right? You are looking at it and they're like, yep, there are 10 houses on this street and they're all separated. And that's who you and I are. Right. And we think that, oh, just because there's a separation here, that you are separate than I am. But he explained it that if you look at those houses, that they are seemingly separate at the surface level, but they all have a common basement.
Yeah.
And that's the energy. And when you go deeper into like Buddhist psychology or kind of Eastern philosophies or Tai Chi or any of the energy work that if you get into, and that's what they explain, like that there's a force that whether we want to call it sixth sense or something else, right? There's a force within us that's connected with everything else. Right? It's like that basement. Yes, we are seemingly separate. We have our own consciousness, but then there is a collective consciousness too. And that's what we drive our creativity from. That's where we drive our life from, and inspiration or motivation, what we want to call. And when I am doing the trainings from like left brain, right brain integration, and what we know from neuroscience or neurology, that right brain is where a lot of that stuff lives or is accessed, right? Our brain is just that instrument to access that energy. Now, it has a lot of its own functions as well, and it has reptile brain too, and we could live at animal level just through the instinctual things, right? Yep. That is fear-based and survival, but we do have the potential to become much more than that. And I feel like with entrepreneurship, what we have, you don't go into entrepreneurship unless, you know that you're creating something beautiful, right? And I think that automatically pulls you up to become your best. And sometimes you forget that. That's the journey. So I don't know if I know I got away from like explaining quantum mechanics into psychology Jungian. If you could follow that, how it kind of comes about to explaining and all this information, when I kind of go back to my clients, young clients in DC, that so much made sense to them because they know science. They understand science, right? When we are talking about like spirituality and spirit and soul, and it's hard to understand. And it was hard for me to understand as well. But this type of solid information was like, oh, there's evidence that this type of force exists. And it's, once you go into it, it's like a gray matter or this type of, you can like really get sucked into it if you really want to know like the essence of what life is. But I kind of stop at those few principles or laws that just gave me enough to say, you know what, this is spirituality thing or this connection thing or who I am outside of just the five senses and randomization of events that we know at the physics level or Newtonian level, there seems to be an order to all this. It's not just randomness. It's not just chaos. So all that was speaking to them, and it was my core thing too. And that's what I help my clients understand, that it's speaking to them and they understand how to apply it to themselves.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Masterclass. Masterclass in quantum mechanics and Jungian philosophy, psychology. It's really incredible. And when we had a previous conversation, not on this podcast, we did talk a lot about the left brain, right brain, and how sometimes the roles that we put ourselves in, because we think that those are the right roles to adopt. Sometimes those roles get us out of that left-right brain connection, and they sort of build up, especially in corporate America, they build up the left side of the brain. So that very logical way of thinking, and it almost creates like a wall, right, between the left and the right brain. And one of the things that I'll share to this audience is that I was in corporate my entire career before I chose the path of entrepreneurship. And even though I do consider myself to be a very creative individual, I've had a lot of trouble applying that creativity to my own business because I tend to think in the way that I was conditioned and brought up in corporate.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I try to apply those same type of principles and actions that worked in a corporate environment to an entrepreneurial environment, I'm not seeing the results that I want to get. And I have a really hard time in my mind figuring out why.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that you said to me is because that side of my brain, the left side of my brain, that muscle is so strong, it almost overpowers the creative part of my brain where the answers lie, from what you just said.
Yes. And integration of the two hemispheres is really, and you asked me like how I help my clients to become their best. That integration of two hemispheres is really what is going to give you that platform to be your best. To be in this world, we need the functionality and faculties of our left brain. We need language. We need dichotomy. We need logic and analysis and kind of putting things into boxes, right? Because that's how we communicate with each other. But then we forget more often that right brain's functionality is where the creativity lies, is where the intuition lies, is where we do get the answers. If you go back to any inventor or theorist, philosopher, you will find in their biographies about the nap routines that they had or the walk routines that they had. I think it was Edison that he would say he would work on his inventions and work on it. And then it was during his walks that he would get the answer.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the answers. If we talk about the left and right, the answers really come from the right, but you prepare yourself to receive the answers with your left.
Oh, so good. This is so good. And it goes beyond some of the advice that you hear out there that is like, give your brain time to rest, maybe give your brain time to like bake. What you're saying and what I'm hearing is that it's give your brain time to integrate.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I like how you also said that the brain is the instrument that accesses that, that body of creativity. And unless we do what we need to do in order to activate that side of our brain, we're never going to dig into that well. It's just not there.
Because the intelligence really comes from beyond, right? We are in a change of season, and comes fall, we see a lot of birds and animals migrate, right? But where's the compass? Where's their logical stuff, right? Where do they know which is south and which is north and where I need to do? Or it's a change of season and now the clocks have reversed and I need to go back, right?
Yeah.
It's the intelligence. The intelligence is already there. We just have to access it, and we access it best with the integration, that integration of the two hemispheres. And if you are interested as a listener in finding more credibility on this integration and learn more about it, Daniel Siegel, his work has been incredible in this. He has many books out, 4 books for kids, teenagers and adults, that you would find kind of a lot of research-based data that is behind this, and a lot of neurology, a lot of medical equipment testing that goes behind it to say that it's a science. We know that it's not, it's the same language. We want to say, like, when we say from a proverbial point of view, like, do your best and then leave the rest to God, right?
Yes.
Right. But now we know, like, really what that meant and what that means, right? You're frying your left brain to do your best, but then you're allowing for that intelligence to flow with that ease, with that relaxation, because that relaxation is where that corridor is that where you access it. You don't access it when you are really heightened up, when you are really using your reptile brain and, it's a survival mode. That's not when you access it. That's when actually you're on the path to burnout or any other psychological disorders, whether it's depression, anxiety, or a number of other things, or even like illness, medical illness. It's just stored energy.
Wow. So I'm wondering, with all of this, I always try to look at things through the lens of the woman entrepreneur. And I know that, sometimes sweeping statements, right? Like, not everybody is the same. Not all men are the same. Not all women are the same. Not all gender or whatever is the same. But there's definitely, I would say, just based on, research, that women entrepreneurs, they don't achieve the same level of success at the same rate that male entrepreneurs do. Everything from they don't get the financing to they're not able to get past the $1 million mark. There's a lot of things, outward measures of success that are much more difficult for a woman entrepreneur to achieve. And it's not because, it's not because we don't work as hard. It's not because we're not as intelligent. There's something else there. And, it's could be society, it could be culture. There's like so many different variables. Do you think that there is something to this idea that women from a young age are so hyper vigilant about protecting themselves, and they've almost like built that up so much that they aren't able to as easily access that well of creativity to achieve some of those more outward focused measures of success? Because there's something in our way.
Yes. And I would say that it's the opposite, because as women, because we are the nurturers, right? We have tendency to use more of our right brain, which is where emotions and feelings reside. And that's why, I think we are kind of like in corporate boardrooms that women are kind of labeled as, mushy-mushy, or feelings and emotions type, but, not just very cutthroat and straightforward, although women have come a long way to using, I guess, the faculties of our left brain as much as our male partners have, or coworkers. I think if for us, it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't want to take it into more just about us getting in the way. I feel like just a one statement that there's so many different things that are in our way. They are, and let's just be honest with it. Like, whether it's gender inequality, or whether it's at work or even at home, and our natural tendencies, right? So there's no comparison. But with self-fulfilling prophecy, that we are kind of, as the message goes to boys, that boys don't cry, the same message goes that, girls are meant to be this, girls are the nurturers, girls are this. So because even we are allowed to experience our emotions a lot more, sometimes those emotions even get in the way. And that's where that integration again would come in handy, that we want to kind of pay attention is it how much of right brain or feelings based, emotions based, illogical based decisions am I taking, right? And then strengthening the integration between the two hemispheres. So we just take on the persona that, oh, I am not meant to be as successful as this, or I am not good at math. I
Yeah.
have a niece who is
I hear this all the
applying for
time.
the
Yeah.
yes, or that's the message. Or I am not like a good engineer. Or although there are women who have like exceeded beyond the shadow of doubt,
Yeah.
but for other 90% of us, right? And that's the message. And self-fulfilling prophecy is a real phenomenon. And we take upon that persona, and it's hard to break our own ceiling. And that's where a lot of that mindset comes in, that you have to keep on breaking. And then I'll be honest with you, I have dealt with a lot of that, and I'm still dealing with a lot of that self-doubt, self-worth stuff that we have to work on. And men don't. They don't. They don't even blink their eyes on self-worth. Like, what do you mean I don't deserve this? Like it just entitlement. It just comes there. But for us, and I have worked with women from all around the world, from different religions, different nationalities, and different genders, different gender roles, and gender identities. And that's a struggle from all of us. It's a common theme that I have noticed in my practice, that we struggle with that self-worth stuff, but like from the get-go, which in my experience, men or very few men have struggled with. Although they do have that, they do have it, but if we are saying it from 0 to 10, and 10 being the highest self-worth that there is, right? Men would start at 5.
Yeah.
And our highest would be like 7, like even the monks, like that's our top, like, oh my God. And then there are stereotypes of like, oh, this, if someone comes across who is like very straightforward, very confident in themselves, and that person or that woman is then labeled as like so many different things, right?
Negative, right? So many
negative
different
in a negative
labels.
light.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's more about the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
That
I agree. And identity does play a large role in what we actually become. There's so much evidence of that. Some really great books too, like Atomic Habits, talk so much about as your identity is what you become. There's such great stuff there. Listen, Gurpreet, I feel like I could talk to you forever. There's a million more questions that I want to ask you. And I'm just wondering, maybe to close it out, what are some of the things that you would suggest that a woman entrepreneur who is really looking to, grow her business, achieve a certain level of success, what are some of the inward things that a woman entrepreneur could do so that she can more easily or maybe more smoothly achieve some of those outward measures of success?
Sure. I would say emotional mastery as a leader is it's an important thing. It's an important aspect, skill that every leader should know, right? You cannot lead others if you have no self-awareness, right? But as a woman, when you are able to manage your emotions, there are so many other things that get in the way, like from menstrual cycle to other hormonal changes, and with the aging, and if you are like a young woman with pregnancies and childbearing, and so there's so many men don't have to go through any of this, right? They don't have to like. I remember when I gave birth to my first child, and for like 10 days, it was just like such an emotional roller coaster up and down, and I would just cry. And that self-confidence of like, where is this coming from? Like, and men are just even keel. Like, they don't have to worry about that, right?
Yeah.
So as a woman, I think it's even that much more important that when you are leading others, right? you understand who you are. And emotional mastery comes very handy to communicate better with others, not taking things personally, and that regulating your own emotions. As we already have talked about, so many disappointments that come our way as an entrepreneur, that we have to kind of keep it consistent, right? Keep it steady. And when you have that emotional mastery, and when you invest into knowing your own emotions, feelings, and what to do about them, and your toolkit, building your toolkit, that what works for you as an individual, like what's your environment, what's available to you, what kind of work you do, what kind of family you have, right? And when you build your own customized toolkit to go to for that emotional mastery, I feel like it's a game changing. Because then what business needs? It needs consistency. It needs steadiness, right? You just keep on going. No matter what. Your business, business doesn't have to, like, whether, I am menstruating or not today. Well, you have your toolkit and what to do and what you want to do when you have this struggle. And yes, you're going to probably carve it down, right? Not take a notch down and not do as much or other things. But all that comes with the self-awareness. If you know what's impacting you, build your emotional mastery toolkit so that you can be steady, be consistent with your business, because it's a long haul game. And that has been, I would say, in my entrepreneurial journey, has been a big thing, that it's not day in, day out, you're able to perform and you show up for others.
This is perfect. I love the idea of the emotional mastery toolkit. We all need one. We need to build one, a customized, personalized one for ourselves. So how can people connect with you, contact you, learn from you, use you to help them build an emotional mastery toolkit?
Sure. Thank you. I am on LinkedIn. So if you just search for Dr. Gurpreet Kaur on LinkedIn, my profile is open. So if you would like to connect, just message me or message me with that. This is where you have found me, and I would love to connect with you. My business name is Living Excellence Today. And that my website is livingexcellencetoday.com. So you can connect with me there, or my email is gkaur@livingexcellencetoday.com. All those are wonderful ways to connect with me. I would love to hear from you guys.
This is amazing. Thank you so much. What a wonderful conversation. And I can't wait for this conversation to continue at the She Leads Live conference, which is happening on December 1st. Hopefully, everybody listening will attend. But I just can't thank you enough for such a wonderful, mind-opening, mind-integrating conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adrienne, for having me here. You have a wonderful audience, and I am looking forward to December 1st and connecting with them all live. So great to be here, and I'm looking forward to be there as well.